Good evening. It is Thursday. It is 7 p.m. and it is time for Content and Cocktails. And this week, we're going to take a slightly interesting structure, I think. But first of all, welcome. If this is your first time listening, watching Content and Cocktails, welcome. This is my weekly deep dive into all things video making and video marketing. My name is Tom Stanhope, and I've been helping people with creating video content for over 20 years now, and I've been doing Content and Cocktails since 2019, and every Thursday I've been here chatting and just chewing the fat about the world of video in general and how it can help you grow your business. Now, with the words grow your business, if you are not a member of my free group Grow Your Business with Video with Tom Stanhope, come over. It's on Facebook. Join the group. It's great fun. You can come and ask questions, be part of the conversation around creating content, and I would love to see you there if you're not a member. So, what's this all about? Well, started out. So this started out as kind of a live, which was really pretty basic actually. It was just me talking, and then sort of developed into me sitting down in the evening with a drink on a Thursday after I had a conversation with Danny Wallace. Now, many of you will know Danny. And if you don't know Danny Wallace, go and check her out. She's absolutely fabulous. Danny came to stay back in tail end of 2019 before all the madness, and over some food we were chatting about how to do sort of online marketing, and one of the things that came up was this idea for Content and Cocktails, and it's ebbed and flowed over the years, but I'm back. I sort of took a little break last year because I couldn't quite work out whether I was, and this is something you've got to be aware of, whether I was bored of doing it or whether I just needed a break. As it turned out, I just needed a break. So the format is this, and format is really important for live video. So the format is this: I turn up and I talk about video making and video marketing, and there is usually a theme that goes through. In fact, there's always a theme that goes through, but the structure is this. So I introduce myself. I've told you who I am. I've introduced you to the principle. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about the cocktail. But before I do that, I am going to just check out all of my various streams and see if hello, Janelle. Hi, Andy. How are you doing? I can see you there now. It really doesn't like showing me your comments when I'm on my personal page. So I am going to just monitor the conversation there, and I will just go over to my free group and check it out there. It's the joys of having all these multiple screens. I can see all these things that are going on. And no, that's last week's. So give me one moment. This is very unprofessional of me. You wouldn't believe that I've been doing this for about 1 million years, would you? So the cocktail this evening, I'm deviating. Normally I go from my little book, 100 Cocktails by Bernard, but this evening I thought I'd take a little deviation. Deviation and go for an amaretto sour. So that's what we're going to be mixing. Andy says, I think I just bought a house today. Oh, and a guitar. Fantastic. Andy is coming down towards the southwest, into the southwest. Somerset, I seem to remember. But yeah, round of applause, Andy. That's fabulous. Great news. Let me just turn that off as well. Oh, heavens to Betsy. It has been a long day. I've been editing and editing and editing. I've finally almost finished. I've been editing some really lovely videos actually for a client called Chloe Savage, who has got an embroidery, and it's one of those projects that I somewhat underestimated just the sheer volume of the things. So we've now got to 85 videos, and we're probably going to top out at about 120 by the end of it, which is just bananas. And I'll tell you what, if you need to know anything about embroidery, these videos are going to be the place to go. But I now know an awful lot about embroidery. It is a bit crazy, but yeah, it has been a serious labor of love, and I've actually it's been incredibly satisfying to do. But today's cocktail will be will be greatly appreciated. So, amaretto sour. It's just a simple recipe. It's an eggy one. So here's the recipe. So I've got it from Difford's Guide, which I really like. So here's the recipe. In fact, why don't I share my screen? That would be a good thing to do. Wiltshire, you're in Wiltshire now. That's great. I do have a sort of a soft spot for Wiltshire. It's kind of got that that Neolithic landscape, which is so kind of beautiful. I've been to Avebury a number of times, and whilst I would consider myself not to be the most hippie-ish of people, there is something intangibly beautiful and kind of oh, I don't know, just sort of profoundly beautiful about that place. I can't. You see, I'm struggling to express it, which is a bit unhelpful. But there we go. Yeah, Wiltshire, fabulous, Andy. Okay, so amaretto sour. Here we go. We need some amaretto. We have the amaretto. We need some lemon juice. I've got a lemon and a squeezer. Angostura bitters. Yes. And an egg. So here we go. I need to first of all shake all ingredients with ice, strain back into a shaker, dry shake without ice, and fine strain into ice-filled glass. Cool. Okay. It's a multi-step process. Yeah, this is a faffy one, and I like faffy cocktails. So you know, hey ho. Ah, nice. The White Horse. I'll tell you where I particularly like in Wiltshire, Andy. Place called is it Wayland's Forge or Wayland's Smithy? No, Wayland's Smithy. Wayland's Forge was a game shop in Birmingham in the 90s, which I particularly liked. For those of a nerdy nature. But yeah, the White Horse is stunning, actually. And it's that sort of beautifully weird and wonderful landscape that feels so kind of quintessentially English, but also remote and distant. And oh, flipping heck, I've got an egg. You know what? I'm just going to find a place to put that. There we go. Oh, got really eggy hands now. I did not think that through. Okay, so we've got the egg whites there. So what are we going to be doing this week in content and cocktails? Well, I thought what we'd do is so I've actually got a tool that I've built for people who are in my paid membership, and it is the Content Planner tool. And as part of that Content Planner tool, there is a section which is all about planning live video content. And in there are like 400 ideas for people to use as inspiration for doing their live video content. Because I know sometimes you'll come to go, you know, if you really want a strong live video sort of plan, sometimes it can be quite exhausting and difficult to keep coming up with the goods. And so I thought, well, you know, I'm sure other people have done it, but I can bring my take on it. I have put together a list for you to use to kind of take some of the sort of, oh Lord above, I'm making a real meal of this. Take some of the guesswork out of the process of planning your live content, because, you know, it's hard sometimes. So what we're going to do, hello Scott, how are you doing? From LinkedIn, Scott MacArthur, speaker extraordinaire, big brain, and all-round good chap. Yeah, so the guesswork and sort of knowing what to say is one of those things that people say time and time again to me, kind of is one of those pieces of the puzzle that really frustrates and people find difficult. So I put this list together, and it's the Content Planner spreadsheet. It's sort of grown over the years into something that's a bit more kind of evolved. Andy, yeah, Andy, as Andy says, he says there's loads of white horses in Wiltshire, and I'm thinking the one that you see as you travel by train is the one sort of which overlooks the rail track. But yeah, Wayland's Smithy is particularly lovely. And I have, I don't know, quite fond memories of being up there. Right, so that's the ice. So we need 1 measure of lemon juice in there, and then 1 measure of amaretto. So once I've mixed this, yeah, we'll go and take a look at the content planner, and we will see what comes up. So what have we got? Let's check the other. No, nothing on that one. Cool. So it says shake over ice first, shake all ingredients with ice and strain back into a shaker. Dry shake, brackets without ice, and fine strain into an ice-filled glass. So I will fill the glass with ice straight away so it has time to get chilly. So whilst I'm doing this, how's your week going? What have you all been up to? As I say, I've been just editing like a machine. So shaky. Now, if you're tuning into this, you're thinking, what on earth does this have to do with business? Why is this person making cocktails online and talking about video? Well, I'm a great believer that marketing should be actually fun. This sort of, certainly the content creation side of it can feel like a real chore sometimes. And I'm going to strain it now. And I found myself, when we were planning this out, thinking, how can I actually make this into something that I would actually enjoy doing? And that was, for me, the big kind of the big impetus to turn content and cocktails into something that was actually quite an enjoyable process. So it's this simple act of just sitting down in the week, and I'm just kind of I've gone dark. Ooh. So Scott says I've gone dark. Can everybody see me? Give me a wave if you can see me, because I think I'm okay on. I haven't checked on LinkedIn, to be honest. So we'll. I think it might just be a little glitch. Right, so we're now going to dry shake this to make it. Oh, I'm back now. Good. There we go. Thanks, Scott. Yeah. So I think the thanks, Janelle. Yeah, I think the purpose of this live, it's to show a bit of who I am, which may or may not be a good thing. But I think, if you turn up and look at this and think, who's this idiot? That's fine. That's good, because if you think that, then it sort of it acts as I've used the red velvet rope analogy before, and so I'm now fine straining this through a fine strainer. This is a super faffy cocktail, isn't it? Fine, I've used this idea. We've got to acknowledge the fact in our businesses that actually sometimes we don't want to work with everybody, because some people just aren't going to be a great fit for us, and that's just the nature of things, isn't it? We can't sort of take everybody on, because there are going, God knows, I've done this myself. There are people I've worked with who are, really, if I'm honest, shouldn't have, and because it wasn't a good fit. And in those in those kind of bad fits, life can get quite difficult and sort of a bit unpleasant sometimes. So if the purpose of doing these kind of lives is to perhaps I don't know, weed out people that aren't going to be a good fit for you, that's okay. So like I say, if people turn up and have a look and go, who's this Wally, I'm okay with this. Look at that. So this is got amaretto sour, bit of a sort of meringue top to this, and some. So I think that looks all right. Let's have a try this. I'm just going to put those in there. That will do. That's very nice. I do like an amaretto, but there we go. So, okay, where are we? I'm just going to open up LinkedIn in case I'm sort of missing anybody's comments. That's the way it all goes. Janelle says, thank you for looking at my video. I have tendencies not to look that. No, your video is great. Janelle's video channel. Pop your link in the video comments, Janelle, because your YouTube channel is fabulous, because so it's kind of cookery of kind of high caliber, and it looks exceptionally tasty. I'm going to try some of them out actually, because I do love cooking. So John says, I've been doing some Haitian dishes. Did this Haitian pumpkin soup that was divine. Well, that sounds really good. Yeah, I'm up for that. That sounds pretty damn tasty. Okay, so let me just. Oh, that is really good actually. I would strongly recommend. Let's have a look at this. So, we've got 4 comments. So they're all from Scott. That's good. Yeah. Cool. 5 comments. So let's get my screen up. Boop, boop. There we go. And let's have a look and see what topic we're gonna have a look at. Okay, so we've got the. Let's go over to Sheets. Where's the master content plan? Here we are. So this is a blank one. Scott says, I'm making a video about the Internet of Animals now. Now, is that about the way animals communicate with each other, or cat gifs? That's what I want to know. So here we are. Here's the spreadsheet that I'm going to use. We're going to go over to this is the master one. It's not filled in, obviously, but in this little drop down here, hello, live video topic ideas. If I click here, I've got lots and lots of ideas that I can use to sort of prompt, to act as a prompt. What have we got? A book that has changed the way I run my business. That's quite a good one. 10 shifts I made to reach my business goal. Jeepers. I don't think I can. 10. That's nearly be bored to tears. But obviously you don't have to. Some of these I think I might have to go and have a look at. How I can give you more time in the day. Yeah, this is all good. Best tips for self-care. Some of these are really sort of, some of these are kind of, what I might have to do is I might just group these slightly differently, because there's, an inspiring book I read recently. That's quite a good one. I mean, they're all great, but some of them are good for for now, you know, for sort of this kind of thing, a bit more sort of conversational. Random online tools we really love. Take your summer to the next level. Crikey. Okay, here's one. Here's how I plan for a productive day. So this is kind of this is quite an interesting one, actually. How do I sort of remain sort of, how do I structure my day? So let me just, so that's going to be our topic. Here's how I plan for a productive day. Let's have a look. Scott's just Scott says, oh gosh, yeah, well that's interesting, isn't it? Communication, it could have been used to predict the recent terrible earthquake. Yeah, I think that sort of that sounds fascinating, actually. Yeah, because you always get that sort of anecdotal evidence of kind of animals leaving a scene sort of hours beforehand, and there are sort of behaviors, but I'm sure there is a lot more evidence, sort of good solid evidence around it. But I think it's that tendency to sometimes view animal behavior as a kind of a less useful indicator of things. But you know, I'm sure people are looking at it. But you know, good, that sounds really interesting. I want to hear more. Okay, so what do I do to sort of make my day more productive? So firstly, I think it's worth acknowledging that my effectiveness is generally governed by my sort of, you know, I sort of unchecked. My general effectiveness, my baseline of effectiveness, is governed quite heavily by sort of my ADHD and a sort of general mental health, which it is for so many of us. And so what I've had to do over the years is sort of build in checks and balances to keep me on the straight and narrow. And what I've found is that the more systematized my day is, the better I tend to do. And I look back at the times in my life where I feel effective and happy. It's when I'm actually following a good structure, a good daily structure. So the first thing I have to do in order to sort of be, you know, to kind of make my daily time productive, and I suppose I'm talking specifically about video content creation here, but given that's my job, so you know, it sort of applies to everything I do in many ways. So I start off with kind of I use quite a lot of sort of digital tools to sort of help me. And first of all, there's a free app that I use called Habits. It's on Android. It's called Habits, and it's just a checklist. So obviously you can't see that because it's over. Yeah, that's not too dark now. Somewhere in the middle. There we go. So you can sort of see it's just a list, a checklist, and I do the task on there. I press it, and it logs it, and I can set reminders. So I have a sort of a set operating procedure for every day, and that's sort of my default set of tasks. And so I know if I can get to the end of the day and I've done all those things, that the day will have been, broadly speaking, productive, because all the sort of baseline things that need to happen have happened. Now, obviously, I've got client project work, so what I do have to do is I have to sort of try and block my time in my diary. So I have set times in the week where I'm editing, set times when I'm doing stuff on my business. So I sort of secondarily, so I've got my list, my checklist, and I've got a blocked out default diary with Fridays, as far as possible, entirely blocked out. So that's just me working on the business. So daily checklist, default diary. Those are two really important things that I use. So this is about, I'm trying to bring some order and structure. Now, what I will say is that by my nature, I find it very, very easy to build habits, but also very, very easy to break habits. And, they are lightly held even at the best of times. And so I have to remind myself to stay on track, which sounds insane. So on my desktop, I have screensavers, which has a whole bunch of don't forgets. And so it has don't forget, Pomodoro timer. So I use a Pomodoro structure to my working day. So when I'm working in 25-minute blocks. Do 25 minutes, stop for 5 minutes, have a cup of tea or something, but I get up and I walk around. I do another 25-minute block, have a 5-minute break, walk around. Another 25-minute block of work, get up, have a cup of tea and walk around, and then another. So you can do 4 blocks of 25 minutes, and then you get a half-hour break. And so generally speaking, if I follow that, I find I get way more done when I'm using that Pomodoro timer method. So I use that. What I also like to do, I generally tend to like to have a little bit of sort of ambient white noise burbling in the background, which drives the kids and Una a little bit bananas. But I find it to be quite a useful tool for sort of focus. So I have Pomodoro timer sort of, and all it is just like a YouTube video in the background. In fact, it's a YouTube video called Focus Sounds, and it's it can be like the sound of waves or something like that, but I just quite like having that in the background. So that I find is a really useful thing for keeping me focused. I have my daily task checklist. What I'm building out is a daily sort of so I'm always sort of tweaking and modifying my daily task checklist. There are some things on there which are sort of non-negotiables, which have to happen, and then there are things on there which kind of come and go, depending on the sort of the seasons, the time of the year. So it's not something that's kind of trapped in aspic, as it were. It does change. So I have to kind of I have to sort of be mindful as to to kind of to bear in mind what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and remember to modify stuff as I go along. So that's one thing. One other thing that I do. So Pomodoro timer, white noise, task checklist, daily marketing activities, and then at the end of every day, I try to do my end of day checklist, end of day tasks for tomorrow. So I'll do a Eisenhower matrix kind of thing where I've got my sort of urgent, important, not urgent, important, not important, urgent, and not important, not urgent. And so I take my tasks and I try and put them in there. And with that structure, if I can stick to it, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. But with that structure, I can squeeze an awful lot of value out of quite a short day, because I'm generally speaking, I am taking the kids into school. So we live, it's a half-hour drive to get the kids to school, half-hour drive back, half-hour drive to pick them up, half-hour drive back. So I'm spending 2 hours out of my working day on a good run, driving back and forth to school. Now, when we move house, that will be different, but that'll come eventually. So with that process, I generally speaking can stay on track. Now, obviously, as kind of your sort of mental well-being fluctuates, as we, in business, it's we all know that sometimes are more stressful than others, and for me, having that structure allows me to not only get the client work done that I need to, it also allows me to sort of build on the business, because I'd sort of last year I sort of managed to recreate a one-to-one, sort of me doing quite a lot of one-to-one work, which is really not the plan. So you'll know that I did Lisa's, course, one-to-many, and I then did the membership, did the mastermind with Lisa, and that was great. And I sort of did great things in the first year of the mastermind, but sort of found I hit the buffers a little bit last year with kind of mental health and things, and that hit me way harder than I'd anticipated. And so I sort of ended last year wanting to rebuild the one-to-many approach, that side of things. And that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm kind of enjoying the process of building things back up to where I want it to be. But as with all these things, you sort of, if you take a deliberate decision not to do a certain thing in your business, you do, and that's what you've been doing, you inevitably take a bit of a hit. So yes, saying 16 comments, but I don't know why I'm not seeing all 16 comments. This is weird. Hang on. Let me just check out. I think I'm missing some comments. There we go. Janelle says, I do mine a 30-minute block, but I'm the same. If I don't, my eyes will wander off like Miranda Priestley at James Hawk's show. Devil Wears Prada reference. Yeah, yes. Yeah, it is very much that sort of thing. It's, if I don't take those actions, I will find myself spiraling off in another direction, which is always fun, isn't it? So let me just have a look and see what things are. Oh, that's what was beeping at me. I couldn't work out what was beeping at me. So what do we think to that? I mean, I find those kind of things. I want to hear about your processes. What are you doing in your day-to-day business to kind of help days be more productive? Don't forget, of course, I have got my retreat coming up. So I have moved the retreat to the 13th and 14th of July. It was originally in May, but a lot of people said they wanted to come but couldn't make it. So I thought, well, maybe I'm, sort of being a bit daft. And so I thought, well, given that I have the capacity to move it because it's taking place on family turf, we just moved to July, and we've got some really lovely folks coming along already. There are still six spots left. 6 spots left, and there's plenty of people sort of circling, which is nice. I suspect at the moment what's happening, people are going, gosh, July sounds quite a long way away. We've had some people sort of jump in as early birds, which is great, but I think there's going to be a flurry probably in a couple of weeks' time. So I will keep on talking about it and make no apologies that I keep talking about it. The really exciting thing about all this is that last year I ran one of these retreats and just absolutely loved doing it, and promised that I would run it this year because I need to be doing more of the things I enjoy. you know, this should all be enjoyable, and that's a big part of what I want to do it all for. So, you know, more things that I enjoy. That's what it's about. So yes, the retreat 13th 14th, it's £997, and that's including that. But what you get for that is a 2-day extravaganza. We'll have a lovely chef prepared meal in the evening. We've got some lovely guest speakers coming along to talk about a variety of things, and also you get, and this is great, you actually get done for you video content, so it's actually a real steal. And the reason it's priced low this time is because I want to get a bit more sort of formal proof from it all, sort of. So there's going to be some filming and a bit of testimonial gathering, but I want to make sure that everybody who comes along gets an absolutely stonking experience. And it's a place it's a place I love sharing. It's a place I love sharing. It's 20 acres of private woodland on the farm, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I grew up like a hobbit in those woods, enjoying the Shire back in the day. So there we go. Content to Cocktails this evening has been a good one. Only one, but it's been a nice one. I can strongly recommend an Amaretto Sour, but I guess that's probably not a huge surprise. So I will be here next week. Now I'm thinking, I've been chewing this over for weeks actually. I was thinking that once I'm through my edit, and this is probably going to be sort of April, May time, was going to be doing another sort of an interview show on Tuesdays, which will sort of function as a sort of podcast, as well as a oh, who's got the amaretto? Who's saying amaretto sound nice? Suzanne, thank you very much. Well, cheers, Suzanne. Amaretto sour, yes, I do like an amaretto. A nice eggy topper on top, and there's some cherries lurking. Yeah, so I was thinking, sort of doing an interview show on Tuesdays, sort of April, May time, starting then, to sort of function as my podcast. I'm trying to balance out people in sort of who are in my groups and the clients, with people who are running big, successful but very niche YouTube channels, because I think they have an awful lot to sort of teach us in how to take a really precise niche and bust it wide open for their business. And hearing their sort of their channel growth stories will be fascinating. So I'm deliberately trying to find niches which are very much off the beaten track for kind of for us to sort of to talk about, because I think that will be very useful for people. But also, I think it's really important for us to get out of the little world we're in, this sort of business coach, solo entrepreneur space that can sometimes feel quite sort of not insular, that's not the word I'm looking for, quite boundaried sometimes. I think I'm making a very deliberate effort this year to expand those boundaries for myself, because I think there's always that risk of ending up if everyone sort of is fishing in the same pond, and that can feel complicated sometimes. Hopefully that makes sense, and isn't sort of too kind of obscure. And you know, it's not a criticism or anybody or anything. It's just, you know, sometimes you look at it and go, I need to expand my network, and this sort of desire to to speak to people who are outside, who are very, very profoundly outside of this immediate network is actually, I think, really quite important, because we can start to get those opinions and that information from outside of that network and feed it into what we do. So there we go. Don't forget, retreat. If you're interested, send me a message, DM me. You'll be able to find the link to the sales page on the on my Facebook. But also we've got the membership, 15 quid a month, bargain. If you want to get your hands on the master content planning spreadsheet thingy that I was talking about, where you've got all the all these access to all these ideas that we talked to. So tonight's live, we went and had a look on there and used that as the way to get into this live. But thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your kind and thoughtful comments, and it is hugely appreciated, as always, having your lovely selves join me to sit down, enjoy a cocktail, and just shoot the breeze for a little bit. So I will see you next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Cheerio.